Well, I'm excited today. I'm glad to hear that. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for coming out to listen to what the Atlanta Regional Commission has to say about our planning efforts for the next 20 years, which is up to Plan 2040. So it's more than 20 years out. But I'm excited to hear that we had people walk. We had people use fixed route and rail. We also had people that use a powered personal driver, people using voucher programs. So it's very exciting to hear, along with Modern Mobility with paratransit, that everybody in the room here chose the mode that was best for them. And that's kind of what Plan 2040 is about. It's about taking what we currently have here in the region as asset and infrastructure and how we're going to sustain that long term over time. So I'll go ahead and move into the presentation now. I'm going to ask, if at all possible, if you could hold all your questions to the end of the presentation, but of course if you have something that you just need to ask while I'm on a specific slide, it is okay to stop me. What is Plan 2040? And what you see here is a map, because let me explain that the Atlanta Regional Commission is many things. We are the Area Agency on Aging. We are the Workforce Development Board. We are the Regional Commission, and we are also known as the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So there are many things that we do at the Atlanta region, and we have lots of boundaries. But for transportation and for our purposes today, we will be referring to 18 to 20 counties. We plan for 18 counties. They are a part of our urbanized area according to the federal government. And for air quality and air quality containment, that's how we get 2 more counties, which is up to 20. So this is just basically a map of our 18 county area. But again, what is Plan 2040? And Plan 2040 is basically the metropolitan Atlanta area's comprehensive plan. And it talks about how we're going to accommodate our economic and our population growth and how we're going to sustain that over the next 30 years. Plan 2040 does include assessments, evaluation, and it possibly could even include some redirections as we continue to refine and develop regional policies and actions that direct our region's resources for transportation investments and provide assistance to local governments. To meet federal requirements or in accordance with federal and state planning requirements, Plan 2040 is a culmination of 3 years of work, and we are nearing the finish line. That's why we are here today, is to present to you a summation of our transportation policies and our investment strategies that we plan to use over the next 30 years. So, as a planner, I get this question all the time from many people. Why do we plan? We plan not just because it is a federal requirement, but we do that to preserve our competitive advantage in the Southeast, in the nation, and in the world. We also plan so that we can capitalize on the great investments that come before us, that have come before us, and we also do it to provide a framework for creative minds to dream of our next great things that will come or become to fruition in our region and cities. We plan to bring the region together as a whole, so that we not just look at each other as individuals, but we look at ourselves as neighbors and as communities. Plan 2040 is built off of local level planning, the input from local elected officials and staff, and public input. It is a regional visions frame, and it brings everything together. And we make sure that all the visions work together in this plan. And although I'm talking specifically about transportation today, Plan 2040 does include land use and community resources and community services, water, and just environment, and a variety of other things. So this is truly a comprehensive plan that we're bringing together.
So land use?
Land use, community, water, and environmental, which water could be considered environmental. Plan 2040 is framed around a vision, and we brought a lot of people together in the region to come up with this vision. And so what Plan 2040 should do is represent the values and the pictures that the people in the region want. We are pursuing economic, environmental, and social sustainability. And the way we are going to go about reaching these 3 goals is we want to lead as the global gateway to the South. These are the things that we want the Atlanta region to continue to be and to be over years. We want to encourage healthy communities, and we also want to expand access to our community resources. So again, this is the vision, and it's out of the vision we've come up with the 3 goals. So again, the vision is pursuing economic, environmental, and social sustainability. Let's talk about some of the successes that we have already had in the past here in the Atlanta region. I think the Atlanta region has done a good job with creating unique and vibrant communities. We have one of the world's busiest airport. We are the 9th largest transit system in the country, which is MARTA, and we have a large logistics and freight infrastructure here in the region. We must plan in new and different ways, though, going forward, if we want to sustain the assets that we already currently have and build upon the successes of our past. Our region has grown beyond the ability of previous planning efforts to meet our needs. There are many challenges that will have to be addressed through the Plan 2040 planning efforts. Aging infrastructure. We're now at a point in our planning process where a lot of our assets and our major investments that we have done are anywhere between 20 all the way up to 100 years old. We spent a lot of the past several decades building this infrastructure, and now we've got to figure out how we're going to pay for it and maintain it and operate it over the long term. The region is already experiencing transit services cutbacks across all of the region's transit operators, and Plan 2040 will speak to how we will address the immediate need so that we can maintain safe and reliable public transportation. While the region's existing roadways and bridges are in pretty good shape today, unless we invest more money in these areas and preserving it, we know that along the lines down 30 years that we can expect the quality of that pavement and bridges to decline. So it's just like with anything, when you first build it, it's great, but maintaining it over the long term, making sure that it's held up to a good quality level of service. It will take more and more resources to keep our investments maintained and operational, modernizing our existing infrastructure. So Plan 2040 discusses how we will balance the need to maintain these assets and operate them while we also bring new things to the area and invest in new infrastructure. Congestion. If you live in the Atlanta region, this is something that we all have experienced at some point in time. Traffic, congestion. Each day as a whole, most residents drive an equivalent of the distance to the sun and part of the way back. And this is largely due to people not living close to where they work. And so as over time, as our population has grown and people have moved out further and further away from where they work, this has helped contribute to some of the congestion that we see here in the region. The system of roadways that we have built over the past several decades, they actually support providing access to jobs for people who are moving further and further away from the region's core. Longer distant trips, coupled with increasing population, has resulted in increasing congestion. Let's talk about the limited options that we have. There are limited travel options other than in a vehicle, which is another challenge that we're trying to address through Plan 2040. Most of the region is highly accessible by a car, but for those who do not drive or for some other reason cannot drive and choose not to, this is an issue. How do we get people to and from where they need to go? How do you get to work? How do you get to the doctor? How do you get to the park if there is a carnival or a festival going on that you want to present to? How do we help people provide the access so that they're able to live more inclusive within their community? By 2040, the projections show that even the accessibility by car is going to dramatically reduce because of the increased demand and the congestion due to population increases. So offering more options is critical to our future. So the Atlanta Regional Commission is clearly aware of what the current travel options are. We are aware that most of our infrastructure, transportation-wise, is geared towards single occupancy vehicle in a car. So we're going forward, we're looking how we can provide more options so that if you want to walk, if you want to bike, if you're able to do that, if you want to get to a bus stop, that infrastructure is there for you. If you want to travel and you have a motorized wheelchair, if you want to, you should be able to get there. There should be an appropriate crosswalk. There should be appropriate pedestrian signals and signs. They should be timed so they're long enough to give you the opportunity to get to and from where you need to go, across the street or wherever you may be going. As you all can see from what I'm talking about today, We face some significant challenges in maintaining and providing a world-class transportation system just for you all of our existing residents and our businesses and our current visitors. While Plan 2040 will address the needs of today's region, it must also address the needs of the region that will be coming in 2040. ARC, we forecast that an additional 3 million residents will be coming by 2040 and another 2 million jobs, and this is over a 30-year time period. This will bring the region to being a total of 8.3 million people and 4.5 million jobs. This growth is equivalent of the population of an entire metro area like San Diego or St. Louis. So that's just to give you a picture of we're actually going to be put in a whole nother city within the current Atlanta region that we already have. The makeup of the demographics will be different. We will have a lot more older people, and our population will be a lot more diverse. So the question is, how do we meet the needs of all these people? How do we get them to where they need to go? So let's talk a little bit now about funding. What can we afford as a region? As you can see on the slide up here, we have approximately $59 billion to spend on maintaining, operating, and adding new transportation infrastructure. Plan 2040 altogether is a $120 billion vision. And this is what we're pursuing. However, the regional transportation plan must be financially constrained. So $59 billion is what we have, but $125 billion is what's in Plan 2040, and that's what we would do if we had all the money, if money was no issue. But because our regional transportation plan, according to federal compliance, has to be constrained, we see that we're in a situation where we can't afford all the investments that we know we're going to need over time. So expected funding available during the time frame through this Plan 2040, again, is approximately $59 billion, and it does include federal, state, and local funding, and some private sources. So we are looking also at ways to fund some projects through private partnerships. This leaves an additional $66 billion for major roadway and transportation, and transit expansions, as well as bridges and transit preservation and operation needs that we need to pursue. And I will say that this $66 billion in additional needs is what we're aspiring for. Again, that will be, and we call that our aspirations plan. Now this next slide is a pie chart, so you can just kind of see how the monies that we do have are going to be spent. 71% of the available funding that we're going to have, it's going to go for maintenance, for maintaining our existing roads, our bridges, our transit services, and maximizing the efficiencies of the current roadways that we have. 25.
Could you say that again?
71%. That's that $42.4 billion, that large piece. We have to maintain what we have, but at the same time, hearing back from our elected officials and other public participation, we saw the need in order for the region to keep its competitive edge. We needed to spend some money on expansion. So this is the breakdown of the total $59 billion that you see up there. So again, 71% is going to go to maintaining existing roads, bridges, transit service, and maximizing the efficiency of our current capacity. 25% will go to expanding roadways and transit systems. 4% is going to go to managing the demand of our transportation system through cost-effective strategies such as investing in bicycle and pedestrian facilities, carpooling, vanpooling, and teleworking. This allocation of funding was guided by technical analysis and stakeholder input. And the Plan 2040 investment strategy, it does address the challenges highlighted earlier: aging infrastructure, congestion, limited travel options, and our growing population.